Our foster care system is shattered. And this podcast is about how we as a community can come together to bring about change. Change in the system and changing the lives of children in foster care. Hi, my name is Rob Shear. I'm the founder of a national charity called Comfort Cases. I'm an advocate for children in foster care. I'm a public speaker. I'm an author of A Forever Family. But most important, I'm a dad to 5 of the most amazing kids. Welcome to the Fostering Change podcast. Hi, everybody. It's Rob Shear, and welcome to Fostering Change. I am so excited about this episode. This is actually going to be a 2-part episode because my friend has flown all the way here from sunny California to not only stay here at our National Center, but to talk about this amazing partnership. Everyone, please meet my friend Bob Dalton from, Sackcloth Ashes. Now, before we get started, I want to let you know a couple of things. Number one, I know you want to send me emails and say, why don't you have masks on? Just to let you know, we have been vaccinated, we have been tested, and we have done all the precautions that we hope each and every one of you are doing because safety is our very first thing. So let's get started. So Bob, welcome to the East Coast.
Thank you for having me, man.
I'm pretty excited that you and I have built this friendship over the year, and you have done so much for Comfort Cases with your organization, your company, and I definitely want to get into that. But first, I'd like to talk about Sackcloth Ashes. I remember when you first reached out to me, and I went to your company, and I was just like blown away. And I'm always sending you text messages showing, one of my kids with their favorite blanket, which of course is from Sackcloth Ashes. So tell me, what made you decide to start a blanket company?
Yeah, I was just transitioning out of a nonprofit, doing nonprofit work, and I decided to just start looking for work because I wanted to become a little bit more self-sustaining in just making an income for myself to be able to put myself in a position to be able to provide. So I just started applying for jobs, and during that same time period, my mom ended up going through a series of events where she uh, ended up living on the streets. And it wasn't like a quick thing. There was very specific things that happened. Like she lost a couple of family members. She got caught up into some addiction. And then through trying to start her life over, kind of in that process, she had a couple family members that ended up not being there for her and then ended up living on the streets. And when I tried to extend support and help, she didn't want to receive help from me because she had a really difficult time receiving help from one of her kids.
Right. I mean, and that's a
Yeah.
typical parent thing, by the way, Bob. I mean, as a dad of 5 kids, I can feel what she feels when it comes to you want to raise your children to take care of themselves, but the last thing you think about is taking. I'd like to jump back a little bit because you talked so much about the same thing that I see in the foster care system. Even especially with kids aging out, they become homeless, they get drug addicted. When you were a kid growing up, did your mom ever show any type of mental illness whatsoever? Did is this something that you could say, looking back, wow, I see it now?
No, she was an incredibly successful woman, beautiful woman, 2 college degrees, managed restaurants her whole life, raised my sister and I by herself. And so she got to a point where, like, she lost her mother and her brother within about the same year of each other. And that's what really took a toll on her at first, which it would take a toll on all of us, losing 2 family members very close, especially your mother, especially the people that are your support. So she ends up on the streets. That changed my paradigm of how I view homelessness because I was always the guy that would drive by people on the street and whisper under my breath, go get a job, and had little to no compassion for people on the street. And it was just a very entitled mentality. I understood and was passionate about helping every other societal issue except for homelessness. And the irony was that my mom, the person closest to me, ends up in that situation. And so that inspired me to do something about homelessness. So I started calling homeless shelters in my area to ask what they needed. They said blankets. And I was familiar with the one for one business model that Tom's and Warby Parker had been doing. But I thought it'd be interesting because homelessness is such a prevalent issue here in the United States. I thought it'd be interesting to do a one for one model that's helping and give back locally. So I came up with the idea that for every blanket that I sell, I'll donate a blanket to your local homeless shelter. So no matter where you live in the United States, if you buy a blanket, we'll send a blanket to a homeless shelter down the street from where you live. And really wanted to bring the focus right here in the United States because this is an issue that's happening right in our own backyard.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're so right about that. I have to tell everybody, I'm really impressed about something, Bob, and let me tell you what that is. You admitted to something that so many of us think, which is we pull up to that stoplight, and I know many of you have done this. You pull up to the stoplight, you see the person standing at the corner. Either you don't make eye contact, or you mumble under your breath because you think that that person is standing there because they're lazy.
Mm-hmm.
You think that that person is standing there because they're trying to milk the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really not what it is. I've gone to shelters in which I know you've traveled the country and gone to shelters, and people that I've met, they want to work.
Mm-hmm.
They want a job. They want to contribute to society. Do you see that same thing?
Yeah, and if I'm honest, I still struggle with my judgment and my bias. I call it like green light racers. Like we try to hit the green light so that we don't have to stop and be faced with the reality that this exists in our society. And so I caught myself a couple weeks ago like having some judgmental thoughts towards somebody because they were like super cracked out, and I just had a negative perception of them, and I caught myself still having those kind of feelings and those kind of thoughts. And so I, by no means am I exempt from still wrestling with that. And I feel like I'm on a journey to reverse a lot of my previous thinking. And after doing my business that's specifically helping the homeless for 7 years, I still struggle with my own bias.
Yeah.
And so that's just reality. And I think a lot of people do as well. I think that this is when you feel entitled and you feel like you've worked hard to earn something, um, you typically have a judgmental attitude toward people that you feel like haven't worked that hard and they're just asking for a handout. And so it's a universal struggle. I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And I think at the very core of what our work is we want to bring an aspect of dignity back to the homeless community. And that could come through just looking people in the eyes when you are driving by them, and just acknowledging them as people and not projects or objects. Princeton did a study where when we drive by people on the street, we actually process them as objects. We don't
Wow.
process them as human beings. And I think that, step one is being able to notice them as human beings and not as objects. And that's really a big part of our work.
I love what you said when you said, looking at people and acknowledging them. It's something that I talk about quite a bit. I actually say to my kids, um, Dad really wants you to do the five, and I call it the five, and that's I want you to acknowledge five people that you would have normally not acknowledged, and that means when we pull up to the traffic light, don't look away. That's a human standing there. Acknowledge them. Maybe I might not have a goodie bag that can hand them, which we try to keep in our car, or maybe a couple dollars that I have in my car, but the least we could do is give them dignity by giving them respect of smiling at them.
100%. And I mean, it's really rare that they would be upset by you not giving them something. But, I usually like, if I don't have anything on me, I like smile and make sure that like, hey, what's up? I notice you. Like, and there's always a mutual respect. Like they always wave back and like they understand.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's been a big part of my own personal journey of reversing a lot of that thinking and making sure that, yeah, I wrote a poem when I was starting Sackcloth a long time ago. And the end of the poem is, now when I see people on the street, I don't just drive by. I look at them dead in the eyes and I see them as people, not projects. I see them as people, not objects. I see them as our brothers and our sisters and our fathers and our mothers. You see, my mother has taught me that not all people choose to become homeless, but some just need a second chance and some just need a helping hand. And they all at least deserve a glance from us to see that they exist. And so a lot of
Wow.
from the very beginning of my journey with Sackcloth, it's been reversing that thinking and my bias toward people on the street. And so, leading to me actually trying to do something about that. It's one thing to like reverse your thinking, and it's another thing to actually act on changing your behavior. That really is the integrity aspect of it. And so came up with the blanket idea, bought a sewing machine and a roll of fabric from Joann's and tried to learn how to sew and realized I'm horrible at sewing. So I found a sewer to make blankets for me, launched a website, and had some decent photography. And on June 1st, 2014, sackclothandashes.com went live, and had no clue what I was doing other than I need to post on social media once a day. Started posting on social media, and about 5 months into it, Instagram emailed me, and they're like, Bob, we love your story. We love what you're doing. We want to feature you on Instagram's Instagram account. And I didn't even know Instagram had an Instagram account.
By the way, I didn't even know they had an
Yeah,
Instagram account either,
and so I looked it up. They had 42 million followers.
Wow.
So I email them back. I'm like, hey, how long do I have before you post about Sackcloth and Ashes? And they're like, we're posting about you tomorrow. And it was the day before Black Friday. So they post about us, and it goes out. Our story goes out to 42 million people, and that's really what kickstarted the entire brand and what the brand is now. So for the next 4 years after that, we grew the brand on social media, sold 100% of our product online, and in 2018, once we had about a million people following our brand, we decided to launch Blanket the United States, which our goal is to donate 1 million blankets to homeless shelters by 2024. And that was really an opportunity for us to say, look, for the last 4 years, as we've grown, uh, you now have people that are leaning in, wondering what is our next move. We know we donate blankets to homeless shelters, but like, what are we going to do and speak to the people? And that campaign was us addressing, we don't just want to donate blankets to homeless shelters. We want to donate 1 million blankets. And while we're doing that, we want to highlight grassroots organizations that are creating solutions for this particular issue.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. There's such a need. And I say that there's such a need. And I'm familiar with the buy one give one, but you're actually doing it. It also reminds me of Obama. I mean, you're actually doing it, and I've seen that firsthand. Bob, we're going to take a quick little break and get back, because I definitely have some more questions about the path that got you where you are today. So we'll be right back. Listen up, everybody. It is so unbelievably grateful in my heart that each and every one of you are listening to our podcast, that you're watching our podcast. Remember, the best compliment you can do is share, share, share. And again, leave your reviews. Email me at fosteringchange@comfortcases.org, and we'll be right back. This episode of Fostering Change is sponsored by Comfort Cases, a national nonprofit that is inspiring our communities to bring dignity and hope to youth in foster care. For just $10 a month, you can support the Comfort Cases mission to eliminate trash bags from the foster care system. For every $10 donated, a Comfort XL duffel bag will be given to a child entering foster care. Please help us be part of the change. Go to comfortcases.org and see how you can help a child entering our foster care system. Welcome back, everybody. I am so excited, as I said earlier, to be here with my friend Bob, who is the founder and CEO of Sackcloth Ashes. I'm telling you, if you ever in your life need to and want to buy the most amazing blanket you could ever have, go to their website, sackclothandashes.com, because, I love, Bob, I will tell you, I love buying something that I know is giving back to my community. And I say this quite often. You all have heard me say this. Some of you will say it's a broken record. Our community is not our zip code. It's our human race. And it is up to us to make sure that we're lifting each other up. And knowing that your company, when people purchase a blanket, you're actually helping to wrap Americans who are, experiencing homelessness. I don't like saying that that's a homeless person, because to me, that's a person. We shouldn't, label them. It's like when people say foster kid. I don't like that. These are kids experiencing foster care. These are people who are experiencing homelessness. So before we took that quick break, you had gotten the sewing machine. You had gone to Joann's Fabric, which, by the way, we have so many people who go to Joann's Fabric,
Shout
and
out to
they
Joanne's.
make lots of blankets at home for us and send them to us to put into our cases. So you're making this Instagram. The day before Black Friday, and you're getting ready to go on Instagram's account. Which, by the way, we have huge following, nothing like yours, and hopefully that will increase. But I didn't even know Instagram had an account.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, they had 42 million followers, and it's the largest Instagram account in the world.
Wow.
So when they posted about us, it was like I felt like I won the lottery, and it's not like they can take paid advertisements or anything, so you couldn't pay them millions of dollars for that type of advertisement. So in some regard, we did win the lottery, in the fact that we just overnight, 5 months into it, it was me, our sewer, and my best friend who quit his job, and and then from that point on, it was crazy.
So you had to gear up real quick for that kind of a demand. So were you already looking at the future of how you are able because I can't imagine, and it probably happened, sitting in your living room with all these sewing machines.
Yeah, I was looking into the future, but not to that extent. So instantly it was like best friend quit his job, joined me, and then I had to quickly find a manufacturer, which I found incredible. I've found multiple manufacturers that make our blankets now in the United States and Florence, Italy, and they ended up giving us a way more efficient way of scaling and making product. And so now, we're making anywhere from 6 to 12,000 blankets every month, and so we had to quickly find some solutions of like, okay, how do we make this much product this quick, and figure out how to scale and build a brand, from absolutely nothing. We had one small investor in the very beginning that we ended up buying out, and so there's no investors in the company. So when you're scaling a brand with no investment, and you're partnering with banks and using the funds that are coming in from selling the product, every single move has to be so strategic in growing a brand from nothing, you know. And so now we're 7 years in, and after you make it past year three, it's
Right.
kind of celebratory. Make it past year five, I gave a speech at our 5 year anniversary party where I said, sackcloth is like a seed that was planted into the ground. And for the last 5 years, our roots have been going into the ground. And that root process is so painful. You're pushing through the dirt, and, there's everything that you can do to stabilize. And year five is like a little bud came from the ground.
Wow.
And it was like, oh my God, I think this is going to work,
Wow. I love
Um,
that. I absolutely love
and
that.
so after 5 years, we're like, oh, this is gonna grow into something beautiful. But we
Right.
didn't know if that was gonna be the case, because 5 years we were just plowing through the dirt, and it was an incredibly painful process.
Wow. Wow. 5 years and then comes 7 years. But let's rewind a little bit, because I do want to know, as you started this company, how was your mom?
Now she's doing amazing. She went through a 4 year time period when from the time I started Sackcloth. For the next 4 years, she was in and out of rehabs and struggled with some addictions, and really had I just came to a point where I just thought she was going to die. Like, it was an incredibly dark season in my life where I just accepted it. And so um, there was an opportunity. I was doing blanket drops at different homeless shelters and programs, and I did a blanket drop at a women's program in Portland, Oregon called Shepherd's Door. And I was learning about their program and what they do, and I told them about my mom and her story and how she inspired me to do what I'm doing now. And they said, well, where's your mom now? And I was like, oh, she's in and out of rehabs. She's in Ohio. And they're like, well, we have 38 out of 40 slots filled in our program. Can you get her here for an interview? I think this program could be an incredible fit for her. And so I flew her from Ohio, and she ended up getting into the program. And she went through the 12-month program, sober, graduated, stayed another 12 months, now has 24 months of sobriety, and now just got hired to be on staff at the women's program.
Wow,
And
that's full
so her
circle.
story is
It is
really
so
powerful.
full circle. I love that. So here you go. You walk into this shelter that you're giving blankets. You're dropping blankets off of, and that is, I always think that in our lives that we have those aha moments, and we also have those act of kindness moments where people truly make a decision at a crossroad. And I feel like you walked into that shelter for a purpose. You could have gone. And by the way, I've been to Portland. There's lots of shelters. There is a high homeless rate there, and so you could have chosen any shelter at that moment. And so, but to go to that one, and now your mom is actually working there now.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute miracle. We actually just did a blanket drop there 2 weeks ago, and my mom was a part of the whole experience where she was on the tour with us. And then I brought this group of executives that we've partnered with, a local market, Zooplans Market, and the CEO and a couple of his team came down for the blanket drop, and my mom got to share her story literally in the front lobby where like she was like, yeah, like Bob brought me to this program and we sat in that room over there and I did my intake and like
Wow.
now she's leading the tour and sharing her story as a staff member, and so it's a miracle. I'm still I feel like I almost have to go through some therapy about it because of how much it's just radically uh, I just feel like I'm thankful.
Yeah, let me tell you, I say this quite often to our listeners and viewers is our stories are powerful, Bob. Our stories are powerful. And the fact that your mother shared her story, I mean, that's a hard story to share, by the way. I mean, you're talking a successful woman, and the next thing you know, she's on the streets, and then getting, I talk about this quite often, Bob, and I'd love to know your opinion on this. I feel like once someone, and I remember when I was homeless as a teenager, once someone is homeless and they're experiencing homelessness and they get caught up in that shelter life, is what I call it, it's very hard to break away. Because you have so many temptations. And for instance, you talk very openly about your mother's drug addiction, and I talk very openly in my book about my drug addiction that I experience, and I think it's because we have so much pain that we're trying everything we can to mask it. Do you feel that that's what your mother, because again, you said to us your mother was very successful, so your mother wasn't dabbing in drugs, prior to experiencing homelessness. Do you feel that that's what it was for her?
I don't know. Hers was alcohol, and alcohol's a really crazy beast. Once it like really grabs a hold of you, and so, for her story, I think she just experienced a lot of loneliness, and after losing people that really was her support system, I can understand that, of why somebody would revert to something like that,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, she was but we all have our vices, and with her, the fact that she was able to battle back and get to a place of health is incredibly inspiring, including to me. She ran a half marathon this last year, and I'm like, my mom's healthier, and
That's amazing. I'm
every
not
time,
running no half
no,
marathon, by
no,
the way.
yeah, me neither. I'm like, it's incredible how she's not only just like not drinking anymore. It's like she's fully thriving in life.
She is.
And
She
so
really
her
is.
story is unfolding still, and I think there's going to be a time where in the next few years, I think she's going to start making her rounds and testifying of that story because it needs to be told. Um, I can't tell you how many shelters I've gone to and told her story that's inspiring the people in the shelter. And it's not even my story. Imagine her sharing her story firsthand. And one of her famous quotes that I've always took to heart from the very beginning is she said, "Nobody can take your strength and your faith away, even when you're at the bottom." And for somebody to be able to say that from a place of where she was at, actually at the bottom, it's inspiring to a lot of people that feel like they're at the end of their rope.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that quote, by the way. I absolutely love that quote. I just have one couple more questions for this episode, but I'd like to know, did your mother forgive? I heard you in the beginning talk about, there was a couple family members who were supposed to be there for her and they weren't. Did she forgive?
I don't know. I would assume so. I think she's done an incredible amount of work. Part of that women's program, they go through different stages or levels, and there's a big part of those levels are the therapy and the unpacking of your past and really understanding your story, and based on her energy and her positivity in life, like it's hard to have that kind of positivity and without forgiving, you
Yes.
know. Um,
You're right about that. I say this all the time. Um, Forgiveness is so many times about gaining the power back.
mhm.
Really gaining the power back. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were trying hard to forgive someone, and they were like, they don't deserve forgiveness. They wronged me, and I said, think about it this way: you're forgiving to gain the power back. You're not forgiving so they can go on, and you're forgiving so you can be set free. And hearing the story of your mother and how powerful she is, and just being such a person of motivation. When you're telling me you're telling this story to other shelters and people are like motivated, I guarantee that she's forgave. I guarantee you that she's forgave.
Yeah, she has that kind of energy about her that like doesn't seem like she'd hold, accounts for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, so here she is. She's now working at the shelter that you had walked in. Sackcloth and Ashes is starting to wrap Americans all over the country. Let me tell you, I follow you on social media. I am very lucky to have your blankets. I'm even more luckier that I get to call you my friend. And so I really want to talk about what you do when you give back, because to me that is just beyond any words I could ever describe. Listen, everybody, this is going to be the end of part one. I really want you all to stay tuned for next week for part two's episode. Really learn about the partnership of Sackcloth and Ashes and Comfort Cases. Bob and I both think alike in so many ways. And one of those things is that we all should be helping each other out. And I need your help. I need you to please go to comfortcases.org and see how you can impact your community. Wrapping a blanket around somebody is giving them dignity, just like what we try to do at Comfort Cases every single day. And you can do that. Please visit sackclothandashes.com and purchase one of their blankets. If you go to our website, you'll see right there on that front page, they're there because they walk the walk with us. Listen, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fostering Change. Do me a favor. When you're listening to this, please, please, please share it. You can listen to it on all our podcast platforms: Apple, Google, Stitcher, Deezer, Spotify, you name it, we are there. And then do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave us a comment. And if you'd like to be a guest, or if you think you have an impactful story to share with our community, please email me personally at fosteringchange@comfortcases.org. Have a great day, everybody.